everybody. It is May 10th. It is the follow-up. We have a subject tonight that is dear to my heart. Because when I first came to California, I was in my mid-20s. I'm never very good with years and ages, but I was in my mid-20s. And I arrived here full of, I had a job, I was brought out to do a job. I had a place to live. A friend of mine was leaving an apartment to move to a bigger apartment, and she had this sort of wonderful, weird, tree-housey apartment above a garage, and it was mine, you know, as soon as I got here. A friend was loaning me a car that was out of town. You know, all the things that could have been problematic were sort of nicely handled. It wasn't a hard transition. I'd been in California before. I'd always enjoyed it. My family had a little history in California, so I didn't feel like it was a distant, far place that I'd never been. I was familiar with a lot of things about Los Angeles. I had already begun my career. Show business was not new to me. I had been through some ups and downs in it. I didn't have any, you know, fantastical expectations yet to be dashed. They'd already been dashed on the streets of New York, so I was, you know, fully dashed by the time I got here. So I didn't have unrealistic expectations, and nor was I jaded or bitter. I was just happy to be here, and I just felt like I was starting, you know, my life here. But it wasn't until I was here for a few years that I began to realize how much stuff had either been told to me or that I believed, and that I had operated in certain ways in my professional life. We'll leave personal life out of it for the moment, but in my professional life, there are certain ways that I had operated based on things that I had been told that were truths I'd been told. And that as I began to operate, I realized that I had been misguided, or I had misunderstood something, or I had believed something that had guided some of my interactions. And I began to, I went through a very kind of, the first time I did feel fearful and apprehensive and doubtful, because a lot of the things that I had sort of based the way I was working and interacting and progressing in my career, I realized were not real things. They were attitudes that I'd been told to have, or they were things that I'd been told I couldn't do or wasn't allowed to do. Or, in some cases, the converse, things I'd been encouraged to do that I realized were dead-end streets, that were stupid. And I'm speaking in generalities now, I know, but I think you all have had these experiences where you go, wait a minute, somebody told me this was the right thing to do, turns out not. Or somebody told me that if you did this, you'd get kicked out of show business. Turns out you're supposed to do it. You know, there are these things, and then you feel like a fool. And the question for me, when I would run up against one of these during that first year or two, was, well, who do you really turn to? Who really does know? Are there some rules? Is all of this just the school of hard knocks? Do you just have to get batted around by everything? Is there a book? Is there, you know, a set of rules somewhere? Did somebody write a show business constitution and not send me a copy? Is there a Bill of Artist Rights that I should, you know, have been tuned into? And I don't know why this was true for me, but early on, And perhaps it was because my life, my early professional life was as a casting person. Perhaps this is why I so early said, I've got to shoot some holes in some of this stuff. And I say perhaps it was my life as a casting person because so often the actors that would come to see me, I would feel were victimized by something they'd been told, something they believed, something that either held them back or and I guess it was because of that close association with acting artists that I was so aware of, like, who told you that? Really? Who told you that? And then I would realize that sometimes pretty responsible people had passed along something that I thought was, firstly, not true, often negative and discouraging and hurtful. And I thought, why would any human beings pass this along? And it always seemed to be in the guise or the, well, you got to face reality. You know, get your feet on the ground. It's a tough business. It is a tough business. I got news for you. Business is tough. I've done some other ones. Real estate. Tough. It's tough. You know, trying to be an international global speaker. The speaking business is tough. Speakers agencies, weird. Weird how they operate, right? Real estate investing, stock market investing, tough. Weird. Who made the rules? You know? And I keep noticing that it isn't just that that's the first one. That's the first piece of bunko that I went, this isn't that much tougher than any other business. Business is tough. Earning a living is a challenge. Establishing yourself from nothing, no reputation, to somebody is hard. But then it's hard. All human beings go through it. Every doctor doesn't get first dibs on the operating room. It takes years to earn that privilege. You know, every lawyer doesn't get the best clients. It takes a while to earn that privilege. Every actor doesn't automatically, but our business has in it an unfortunate little hitch that throws everybody's consciousness in the toilet. And that is that in our business, there's this thing called the break. Every once in a while, somebody gets one. They didn't deserve it. They had the right color eyes. They were tall enough or short enough or blonde enough or stacked enough or not stacked enough or spoke Greek or who knows. You know, but they got a break. And that throws off the consciousness. Everybody goes, well, see? And then we start believing all the discouraging little myths. Because it looks like, well, miracles happen. Breaks happen. I got one. I can testify to this. I got a job once I didn't deserve. I mean, there were reasons I was qualified for it, sort of. It was sort of an accident, you know. I got to cast MASH. There were much more qualified people than I. But I happened to know a lot of really good young actors. And they needed that because they killed them. They shot them, you know. They shot 3 or 4 of them in every episode. They were fucking dead. That's the nature, but they were really dead. That's the nature of war. We kill children. We think that's cute, you know. So we send, you know, I don't know how many of you watch George Stephanopoulos, and they run that in memoriam at the end of, you know, celebrity people that have died, and they also run the names of the soldiers that have died. Every once in a while there's one in their 30s. Most of them are 18, 19, 20, 21. A lot of old folks send a lot of young folks to fight. If we sent the old folks, the wars would be a lot shorter. Because young folks are expendable